everyone, welcome to the bonus episode for this week.
Hello.
We've got listener questions today, which means that you guys get to ask us stuff and we don't know the answers.
Well, hopefully they've already asked us stuff, otherwise we're kind of stuffed because we're not doing a live stream or anything. We've got some listener questions. People have been writing in, as always, saying, tell us the answers to these things, tell us what you think about them. And so we've picked some, and we're going to tell you what we think about them. It's been a bit of a busy week for us this week, hasn't it? So we're going to we're doing this one by the seat of our pants. We've got very little in the way of notes, preparation. We've not talked about this at all.
Michael
so I don't know how this is going to go.
Very extensive preparation.
I do like to be well prepared for a podcast. Gemma don't care.
Well, I don't look at it.
She doesn't believe in preparation. You just got to go with what's in your heart, don't you?
I just go on vibes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to vibe it because we thought that you'd probably want to have a bonus episode for this week. Better than nothing. And it could still be quite good anyway because we've got some lovely questions. First of which comes from listener John, who says, what is your all-star cast? Pick one person or family who lived at each house on the street throughout the years to assemble the all-star cast.
John.
Yes.
John.
Is this daunting to you?
Go through the entire history of Coronation Street.
Yeah.
Geographically and come up with some ideas.
I like the idea.
So we're just doing... Right, so he says all-star cast. He's not even saying just Coronation. He says house on the street.
Yeah,
Are we only doing Coronation Street?
No, because there's only a few residences around the corner. I reckon that we could still fit in Rosamond Street and Victoria Street into this and all.
Who's a good question then? If you're doing Grasmere Drive, and I've forgotten what number it is.
I'm not counting that.
Who do you pick? Did old Suave Face, what's his face?
Who are you talking about? Alf?
Suave Face. No, it's not. He's Alf. Alf, Audrey and Suave Face. Did he ever live there with Audrey?
Stephen.
Not
No?
Stephen.
Who are you talking about? Lewis?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Did he ever live there?
I don't think he did. I think that...
Who's the best out of Audrey and Alf?
Well, this is the difficulty,
you can't
isn't
have them
it?
in your all-star cast,
I think anyone who lives in extended addresses, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to be cut from this.
If your postcode's not within the Coronation Street.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you
You're
think
out.
that
You're out.
postcode is?
Although Alf and Audrey have lived in Coronation Street themselves at one point, so they're still up for being picked, up for nomination. The question is, are we going with what John says with, do we pick one person from each house, or do we pick for like a family?
Pick one person or family
Yeah.
who lived on the house. Yeah, it's gonna. I think. Yeah, because we had a very brief conversation about this yesterday, and I said, "Are you allowed to pick? Say, I know this didn't happen, but say, well, Ken and Albert lived in the same house, but not at the same time."
Oh, I think if we were going to pick more than one person, they had to live there at the same time. They had to live there
simultaneously. So
otherwise, you could just say, "Well, I pick everybody."
I pick the Harris family and
exactly. I quite like the idea of just picking one, but then is that a bit too Corrie-ish? I don't know. Or do we say like a maximum of 2 people, but they had to live there at the same time? And are we going for shared lists, or are we going...
No, we're doing a joint one.
Joint list.
We've not got all day for this, have
we? we haven't. So this could be the sort of thing like if they were making a map or a video game on Coronation Street, like who would be the characters that would be in there when you open the game up for the first time. Something like that, I'm imagining.
Or maybe like a choose your own adventure game.
Could be. Or if they were doing like something at the Coronation Street tour and they had a little board for each house whose face would be there as the big picture front and centre.
That's a very good question. Now, can I just go for my my gut feeling here and ask you if it's possible? So, do you have to have all the family, or can you pick?
I think we can pick. I think the problem if we go for family in John's suggestion is that some of them can be so big. Like, number 1, let's have the Barlow family. Well, that includes Ken, Tracy, Adam, everybody. Danny.
No, Adam and Danny didn't live there at the same time. We already established this as a rule, didn't we?
Danny lived there at all, to be
honest. We already established this as a rule. That you have to be living there simultaneously.
Yeah, well, I don't always remember about who lived everywhere at each point. I think that...
Cat just stood on me.
Yeah, I think that I think that we should maybe limit ourselves to maybe 2 people at once.
Okay, well, I'm just going to come straight out with it, and I don't even know what number it was, because, okay, we're going to be hampered somewhat here, because I don't know any of the numbers of the houses.
No, you've only been watching Coronation Street for 25 years
Can
now.
I just
doing
say,
a podcast for
this
13.
is a bridge too far for me, I'm afraid.
Well,
I think once I start to know the number of the addresses, I might as well just throw myself in a hole. And I'm not trying to disparage anyone who's listening who knows where everybody lives. I'm just saying that for me personally, I know too many other things about Coronation Street. I want to remain in blissful ignorance of some things, so I don't feel too much
this is
like
gonna fill
I can do a degree on this or something. And you know what? Maybe I do want an honorary degree out of this.
Do we want to? I think we need to probably start off with the Rovers' return and who we're having living there.
I don't want to. I want to start with that. I want to just say, where does Elsie and Dennis live?
Number 11.
Right. No one else can come out.
We need to go down in order.
No, I'm not doing it.
Otherwise, we're going to be jumping all over the place and we're forgetting something.
Well, I know that they're the best ones who've ever lived there.
Well, we can maybe go with them. We'll just have to see.
Oh, right.
I think we need to talk about the Rovers.
Can you? Right. So, okay. Here's a question that I should know the answer to. Right. So when. Is it like a normal street where you go 1 is this side, 2 is that side,
the odds
3
are
is
the
that
terraces
side?
And the evens are the posh ones at the other side. Yeah.
So are there any missing numbers? There aren't, are there?
Possibly
7, 8, 9, 10. How many does it go up to?
Because the factory's one of them.
See, this is why when they did that quiz, remember I was on the radio and they asked me questions and I didn't know the answers. This is why.
There are 15 in Coronation Street.
Right, it goes up to 13, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, but 15 is the 13, shop, 14, and there's obviously the corner shop flat.
Right, I've only got 15 spaces.
Okay, right. You happy?
Right, so number 1 is the Rovers. No, it isn't.
No, Rovers is separate.
No, that's exactly right.
So we might.
Who's the best who's ever lived in the Rovers? Is the question.
Yeah, I think that we're looking for. Are we going for Jack and Annie, who are the classic land people, the OG? Yeah,
the land people.
Or are we having like Bet and Alec? Do we go with Jenny and Johnny? Because I can't remember. I mean, we might. As much as it pains me to say it, I don't think that Jenny and Johnny, we love them dearly.
They weren't there long enough. Together.
No. Well, it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters whether they were there long enough.
It does matter.
But I think that it would be a shame to say to represent the Rovers over Coronation Street's 65-year history. I think we're better off going with somebody who truly, truly represents the heart and spirit and soul of that pub, which I'm going to possibly say Jack and Annie. Yeah. Because if we want to think about Bet, she has lived at other places on the street. So,
yeah. See, this is the thing, right? Because some people just are intrinsically linked to one particular geographical place, and other people aren't. Like you said, that Bet's moved around a bit. Jenny also, although she is, to me, one of the best landladies there's ever been, Jack and Annie were so much part of the Rovers that they are my all-star cast.
Yeah, there's no chance of getting them anywhere else.
It's really funny to imagine though, like who we're going to end up with and what kind of stories and how funny. Because like Jack and Annie, there's a lot of things that go on the street now that I don't think they would approve of.
Do you think so?
No, and I don't know who they talk to about it. And I think even Jack, who was quite laid back, I think would have a few raised eyebrows about the fact that the factory owner's now going out with a lady and she's a lady. I mean, first of all, the fact that the factory owner at all was a woman would be quite...
I don't know.
Surprising.
I mean, Annie ran the Rovers for a good few years herself after Jack popped his clogs. I think that she would maybe support that.
No, she might support it, but still, do we have to pretend it's not surprising? It is surprising. Okay. And also, don't forget that Annie had to face so many hurdles and challenges that people didn't think she could do it. People kept trying to get her to move. Do you remember? Because they didn't think she could do it by herself. I mean, she'd be very surprised. She probably would be quite, she might clutch her pearls a bit. But at the end of the day, when she got used to the idea, she'd probably be quite proud of Carla for being able to.
I think so. I'd like to think so. Right, number 1. There's fairly easy start after this, isn't it? Because you basically got Albert who living there at the beginning, and since then you've got various Barlow members. Yeah. You've got Ken, Deirdre, Tracy. plus others. I mean, I think that Blanche would be quite a good one to do as one of them, but do we split up Ken and Deirdre if we're only going for two people per house?
I think you've made a rule for no reason, because I would have just said that I'm going to pick Ken, Deirdre, Amy and Blanche.
I'll go with that if you want to.
Because they're I mean, come on.
Sorry, Albert.
That's classic. I know. I do like Albert, but he's not.
I was never really a fan of Albert Tatlock.
What?
No, I know. People have tried to sell him to me before,
What?
but
He sells himself.
I've seen enough of him to think, yeah, he was fine. But to stand him up alongside Ken, Deirdre, Amy, Blanche. I suppose the thing is, if we're including those as they lived together, Amy is just baby Amy, so you don't get much out of her.
No, there was a bit where she was Wednesday Addams when Blanche was still alive.
Just briefly,
very briefly.
Yeah, she was young. She was young, and we're putting Tracy in there as well, are we?
I'll do what I want.
I assume. Okay, so number 3 then, and we've had even less to choose from there. You got
number 3.
Yeah, number 3 started off with the Barlows, didn't it? Where you got Ken,
Mum and Dad, and
Ida and Frank. David were there for a bit, and I don't think there was a whole lot.
Did Christine ever move in with?
No, I don't think so. And I think for this list, anybody who was in for a little bit probably isn't going to count. I think they've got to be a decent stab at living there to get possibly nominated onto our list. Because then after the Barlows, you had obviously Emily Bishop was there for a long while, wasn't she?
Now Norris lived there with her, didn't he? No.
Yeah. Emily had various lodgers over the years, and we've got the Baileys now. I think straight away we're going to say, sadly, I don't think the Baileys are going to make the cut here. So it's probably going to be Emily Bishop plus a lodger. The question is it Curly? Is it Percy? Is it Norris?
Oh, what about Spider?
Or do we go?
Spider live there for a bit?
Yeah, a little bit. Or obviously Ernest as well. We've got for Emily's husband, but I don't think he's going to give us much bang for our buck in the old entertainment stakes. Is Ernest?
Oh, Ernie.
I prefer the landlady or the world weary landlady and lodger relationship. I'd probably, and maybe it's just because it's been a while since he's been in the show, go for Percy over Norris. But that's probably some kind of sacrilege, isn't it? There.
I don't mind if we do that because I.
You just agreeing with anything that I say to get through the list.
Excuse me, what did I just say that I wanted those for and you had to go with that?
Okay, so Emily and Percy. I think, Norris probably isn't going to go anywhere else, is he? So we're cutting him loose. But I think that Percy is unfairly maligned in Coronation Street history. I think that Norris kind of took over as the... he's not curmudgeonly, is he? Isn't Norris curmudgeonly, or is he more of a gossip?
He was both, but I'm going to say that I personally think that Norris is a bit more of a versatile character than Percy, because I think that Norris had his eras, but I think they were both really beautifully realised, and they had some moments where you realised that there was something more about them than just being a grumpy old git.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, like Norris with his brother Ramsay, and Percy with the whole going to the fields of death.
Normandy. I was thinking
That's
of
what
more.
I mean, I call it fields of death, but Normandy.
I was thinking more of Percy when he had his visit from his German POW. I can't remember what his name was now, but
Frederick.
No, Hans, I imagine. Okay, so number 5 then. So this is where Gemma and Chesney are currently living, but you've also had the likes
and Bernie lives there apparently.
Bernie and all the quads are living there, but this was also called Battersby territory.
Here we go.
In the late 90s.
So Les Scylla or Les and Janice.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think that Toyah and Leanne lived there when.
Not when Scylla was there. So if we're going Scylla,
so we'd have to have Chesney.
Yeah. So we got the trio of Les, Scylla, Chesney as a possibility, or you got Les, Janice, Toyah, and Leanne. But then looking back further than that, you got the likes of Don and Ivy lived at number 5 for a good while in the late 80s, early 90s. going back before that, you had people like
Millie Caldwell.
Yeah, Millie Caldwell lived
with
there.
Jed.
Bert and Gail lived there for a bit. Bette Lynch lived there for a year or so.
Ina lived there.
Yeah, but I think she was on and off, so I don't think we can count
Ray
Ina.
Langton.
Yeah, so I think that's number 5 is actually quite a tricky one to go for. Esther Hayes, of course, when the show first starts. So.
Oh my goodness, yeah, Brian, Ivy, Gail.
Yeah, I think Gail stayed there for a bit. I can't remember how long.
I'm just reading off Coropedia.
Okay.
CoronationStreet.fandom.com for all your Coronation Street needs.
Yeah, so I think really, to me, the choice is it Ivy or is it Battersby's? And which one represents the house more? Who's more important in your all-star cast? Who are you thinking?
It's hard because, like, I do agree with what you said about limiting the characters to a certain extent. Because once we get to, say, Gail's house, we can literally have every Platt that's ever lived.
Yeah.
Was there at some point. But I really like the idea of getting the Battersbys with Janice in, just so I can get
I'm
Toya.
leaning more towards that, yeah.
Because I do like, because I think Gail might pop up in the Platt house. This is why I'm mentioning.
Oh, for sure.
I don't feel we're going to miss out on Gail if she doesn't come in with Ivy and Brian and Bert.
If I think number 5 Coronation Street, and maybe this is just my era from when I was, my formative years of watching Coronation Street, I think the Battersbys or various Battersby members are what stick in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about, I'm not disparaging Gemma and Chesney and the Quads and Bernie, because I think people do that enough, and I don't think it's entirely fair. But they really are a bit like the Battersbys light, just the same way that as I do feel like Jack and Vera were the Ogdens light.
Yeah.
They know they found a formula that really worked, and they repeated it in different generations of people.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's more obvious than others that this family is just the same as the other family. But I do think that the Winter Browns are a bit of a Battersby repeat. But I think the originals were just so disruptive, and it's so funny also looking back on them when they came in, how much they were hated, and people, were talking about them in the press, and I think that they've really kind of got a solid legacy. I don't know that everybody remembers. I wonder if anyone remembers I hated them when they came in, and I still do. I think a lot of the time there will be a big kerfuffle about somebody, and then everyone will grow to like them, and then the people that made a stink kind of forget that they were moaning. And I'm not even going to say I'm not that kind of person, because I think we are. I do think we kick up a stink and then forget things.
Oh, for sure.
And I don't think that's a bad way to live your life, honestly. But yeah, I think that those 4 Battersbys, I think, are a great...
Yeah, and they only stayed together living in the house for a few years. Yeah, they weren't
there for a long time, really.
And if you compare to Ivy, she was in the house for, 20 years or so, just 15, 20 years, an awful lot longer. But, it wasn't a happy few years. And I think if you were to say, who do I prefer as a character, as out of Ivy and the Battersbys, if I can put one person up against the bunch, I'd probably still say Ivy. Ivy is definitely up there as one of my all-time greats. But if I'm thinking what represents the house and maybe what do we get more bang for our buck for, it's probably the Battersbys. I think there's definitely going to be people disagreeing with us there.
That's fine.
But are we going to go for Battersbys for that one?
I mean, the fact that we're talking about different people means that you can pick your own.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to talk about as many people as we can.
Yeah, as much. I mean, I would obviously love Minnie to be there as well.
Minnie.
But I don't think...
Minnie, I love the idea of Minnie.
We've got our old school pick with Jack and Nanny, haven't we?
Well, we're going to have more in a minute, I'm telling you.
Okay,
right,
so number 7.
Far,
oh, yeah, go on.
If you're walking down the street and you're knocking on the door and you're doing...
Just on the terrace side.
Ding dong ditch.
Yeah.
You're getting Jack and Nanny out of bed. You're getting Ken, Deirdre, Amy and Blanche Abed, then Emily and Percy, and then Les, Janice, Leanne and Toya so far.
Okay.
Right, so now we're on number 7.
Number 7, you've got the Alahans living there at the moment. Number 7's one that collapsed for a while, so we've got a little bit less to draw from. Maybe that makes it easier here. But if you're running through the years, you basically got the Hewitts when they first came into it, and then it collapsed. Then you had Len, Rita, and possibly various foster children as well. Moving on, you had Curly. Yeah, Curly lived there for a bit.
Angie
Raquel
Freeman.
moved on. Yeah, Angie stayed there for a little bit. Number 7. There's been various kind of random people. It doesn't, to me, feel like if I think about number 7, I don't necessarily think, oh, that's the so and so house. You know, because it's changed so much over the years.
But can I point out that we get a chance to get Jenny back in it again?
I know, we do.
On and off at various points.
Obviously, you had the Baldwin clan living there for a bit in the early 2000s.
I don't want to be
Danny,
mean,
Frankie, and so they're not getting in,
on
are
my
they?
list.
No. And Dev, really, for the past 15 years.
But I love Dev.
I know. But then you got Rita, haven't you? But then also, Rita's going to be a shoo-in for the flat above the cabin, because I think possibly she's the only person that's ever lived in that flat.
But can we be sneaky little bitches here and get Jenny in with Rita, because she did stay in that flat with her?
I think I may allow this, that she stayed a few nights there.
And was there a cat that got crushed to death under a Christmas tree, or am I just conflating?
You can't have the cat in there. That was only a few years ago.
Okay.
So if we're saying Rita will park you for a minute, are we putting Curly in? Are we putting in the Alahans? or are we going old school with the Hewitts?
I do really like Harry and Concepta Hewitt and Lucille.
So
I really like them a lot.
They don't really represent the house for me, and they're not a really memorable family, are they? They're not an all-star cast. They don't sparkle in the same way as the other names that we've picked.
The Alahans are.
Okay.
But are we going to do Sunita Alahans? Are we going to do Mary Alahans? Or are we going to do current day?
I can't remember. Sunita did come back once the twins were somewhat grown up. She wasn't just there when she was a baby, was she?
I want the Alahans now, I think.
You want the Alahans as they are now, so it's just Dev, Ardy and Asher.
I don't even know whether Ardy and Asher do live at home still, but I'm going to pretend that I'm not interested in finding out.
They do.
Sometimes I deliberately don't find things out because it's not going to benefit me to know.
I'll happily put the Alahans in there if you want to.
Okay, so this is number 7.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they've managed to sneak in there through lack of easy competition. Because I don't know whether the Alahans are properly all-star for me, but it doesn't matter.
No, I love them.
Right, so number 9. So you've got Jack and Vera. You've got Fizz, Tyrone. You got. I mean, right back in the early days, this is no. Hilda was 13. Back in the early days, you had the Cheveskis lived there for a little bit.
They did, didn't they?
Even Rita has lived at number 9 for a bit. Actually, she's been a few places.
Go away.
You got. I think Jack and Vera are going to be difficult to top here, to be honest. You got the Mallets, who I loved, but I think
dead.
They've got enough competition to
boring children.
Kick him out. They didn't give him a chance, Gemma. They were only a couple of years old when they left the show.
Freddie Smith.
Yeah.
Jade lived there with. We're gonna have Alina. We're gonna have Dorin. We could have Dorin if we had.
I don't think we can have Dorin in our old star cast as much as we love him.
No, wait a minute, Michael. Look. So we got the classics. We got Jack and Vera, but we also got Evelyn, Cassie, Hope, Ruby, Dorin, Alina.
I know, but number 9, as it is, people say is a shrine to Jack and Vera with all their knickknacks and bits and bobs around the place.
And Tyrone, obviously.
Yeah,
Are we gonna put Evelyn on the scrap heap?
I think we might have to.
I think of people.
When you got Jack and Vera as competition, I don't think there's going to be I don't think. When you think number 9, if you look at the cladding out the front, that's all Jack and Vera, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was Jack's brother who put that up. I think
What's
it's
Jack's brother's name?
Clifford, I believe.
Clifford.
But the question is, do we have anyone with Jack and Vera? I mean, do we throw Terry in just for fun? Or, I mean, Curly did lodge with them for a little bit. He was there for 2 or 3 years, I think.
Yeah, because it was Kevin that lodged with Hilda and...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, do we want to throw Curly in?
Yeah, we can have Terry or Curly.
I'm not.
And does it make a difference with how old those characters are?
I think they had to be the age they were at the time.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is, do you want old Jack and Vera with Curly, or an older? Or are we going to have a young character?
We can put in Jack and Vera with Tyrone, can't we? You know, in their later years. He lived in there. There was definitely some overlap there.
Now, I have a more fond feeling for that combination, because that kind of fits in with when... I think when we were watching the old episodes, I vibed more with those three, because this is Tyrone, I know Tyrone. And also, all of the build-up that had come from the stuff that happened with Terry, and how badly he treated them, and how lovely it was and different it was with Tyrone. I think it made the backstory with Terry made Tyrone living there.
Yeah, they had a perfect happy family, didn't they? Question is, are we going to throw Molly Compton in there as well, pre-affair with Kevin?
Slag?
Yeah.
No,
absolutely. I'm happy to keep it as a threesome of Jack, Vera, and Tyrone at number 9. That seems to feel right for me. You get a decent number there.
I was trying to follow along, but the cat is now in the way of the iPad.
I know, it's all right. We're managing fine.
So we're on number 11
now. You said that the Tanners are
but who else was in there?
Well, we've had obviously the McDonalds have been in there, and now you've got the Grimshaws. So this is another, I would say, quite hotly contested kind of bunch. Although I am kind of leaning more towards Elsie and Dennis, to be honest.
Where did Stan and Hilda live? 13. So okay.
Stan and Hilda are going to be 13, aren't they? To be fair.
But I'm sorry, but I just genuinely love the combination of
Elsie and Dennis. Do you want to justify your choice?
Well, who else have we got? You said
Grimshaws now. McDonalds.
Yeah, the McDonalds are really strong.
And you got the Claytons, some of the early Websters as well. I mean, Audrey and Alf did live here for a little bit.
And Susie Birchall.
No, not including her.
Oh.
I think there's been a good number of people that have lived at number 11, but really the competition is between Elsie and Dennis versus McDonald's versus Grimshaws.
Yeah, I mean, look, Eileen has been in the show for 25 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say that she's one of their favourites. Although I'm going to say that one of the sort of curse of modern Coronation Street is that anyone who's been in the show for the last 10 years, I don't think you can be the same sort of a favourite of somebody as you can have been back in the previous years. Because if Eileen's your favourite character, you're not telling me that you're getting anything out of watching Corrie on the whole, are you?
Why?
Eileen's just not in it very much. She's in it now.
She's been in it more this year than she's been the last few years.
In the last 5 years.
Supporting her poor, sickly sister.
I'm not like having a go at Eileen, far from it, because I really enjoyed her. I think one of her best moments was just being the switch at the streetcars and bantering with Steve and whoever, Lloyd or Tim or whatever. Those scenes were some of my favourites, and just Eileen just being a grouch. I loved that, but she's just not done anything for so long.
Yeah, but for this, what we're doing today, it doesn't matter.
It does matter, because if you're saying, okay, well, my favourite's Eileen, right? Even if you say my favourite's Eileen and my favourite is Elsie Tanner, and those are my 2 favourite characters of all time, I can't see how you wouldn't still pick, even if you love them equally, Elsie Tanner, because due to the nature of the show and how it was written, Elsie had way more stuff to do and she was in it way more.
Yeah, I know. I get that.
Yeah.
It depends whether we want the family dynamic of the Grimshaws, or do we just want we can put Elsie and we can stick Linda in if you want, and have them like from the early days before she moved in with Ivan.
No, I want Dennis, Elsie and Linda.
Dennis, Elsie and Linda. Fine, okay. And then we just gonna
proper like first 10 episodes. of those three characters.
So for 13 then, I mean, are we going to discuss this one at all? Or just Stan and
we
Hilda
have to talk about the other people because...
Just get in there through sheer merit. So you got the Hardmans were in there. Well, one Hardman lasted longer than the other. Christine was great. I
really liked Christine. May was fine, whatever. Yeah.
With the Ogdens,
we can have Irma.
We can have Irma, but she also lived in the corner shop flat for a little bit as well, didn't she?
Who did she live with?
I think that even Bet was in there with Irma for a little while, so we could.
We might be able to save them.
So
there. We could put Kevin.
We could put Kevin. We could put Kevin in there with Stan and Hilda.
Was Stan dead when Kevin moved in?
Oh no, I think that there was a little bit of overlap actually.
No, I want
Eddie. But we also got
Eddie
Yates, haven't we?
Sorry, Kev. Eddie. Yes.
Just for there.
Eddie, Stan and Hilda.
Oh, actually, no. Kevin wasn't there at the same time as Stan. It looks like actually,
no,
so there's
no
competition.
Moved in?
Stan, Hilda, Eddie. So we're not having any of the Webster's clan in there then. Sally, Brooke, not Sophie, sorry. Rosie. And obviously, Kevin's just kind of stuck around ever since, hasn't he? We had the Peacocks living in there for a little bit.
Cheryl.
Yeah, and the prices a little bit. But okay, so that's fine with me.
Because at the moment, it's obviously Kevin, Abby, Jack.
Yeah.
Carl the dickhead.
Well, we're not having him in there for sure.
I mean, Debbie perhaps at some point might move in.
There's no competition, is there? If we're going for an all-star cast, it's got to be. You can't beat Stan, Hilda, and Eddie Yates for comedy gold.
I do feel as though
capers.
This is very much weighted to old school Coronation Street.
Well, we've got a good mix, we got Ken who's still in it now. Emily and Percy is kind of midway, isn't she? You got the Alahans, they're a modern mix, and the Battersbys are midway as well. I think we're fairly balanced at the moment, to be honest. Then to round out the terraced ends, you got 15A, which is the corner shop flat. Where we've had, you've had the Baumgate girls, Sheila and Doreen lived there for a bit. You had Betty live there. You had Irma live there. I think there was definitely some crossover between. Yeah, look, I'm just again looking on Corriepedia at the moment. Irma moved into the flat with Bet Lynch in 1970.
We've got to do that then.
I think it's going to be difficult to argue against that. You've had Ken lived there for a bit. Reg was there for a little bit. Dev, he's already made it through. You've obviously got Daniel and Sinead were there. You've got Dee Dee there now.
I know this hasn't ever happened, but it would be hilarious if there was one person who's lived in every single house.
Yeah.
And you could just have them. Every single house is them, but at a different age of their life. And then have the show would just be them interacting with themselves.
Okay, so for their tiny amount of time spent living together, just because we've got to get Bet in here if we can't have her in the Rovers, Bet's going to be representative of the corner shop flat and just Irma because we love her.
So, yeah, I think what the women of the street might find here is that they are stuck without any eligible bachelors to be getting along with.
That doesn't matter.
Because Corrie's full of strong women.
So back onto the posh side of the street now. If we go at 2A, which is the cabin flat. Not the cabin flat. You've got the Audrey's flat.
So we're right way back down opposite the Rovers now. We're looking at Audrey's salon and to the side of it, to the left of it, is a little door.
You upstairs.
You never really see anybody coming out of that door, but when Maria lived there, I think she did come out that door quite a lot.
Looking at who's lived there, I'm not sure. I think whoever gets in is going to be quite kind of lucky. To me, if I'm thinking who represents that flat the most, you can't argue against Maria, really, can you?
When I think of that flat, I think of Maria.
That's Maria's flat.
But at the moment, Leanne lives in there.
Is she living there at the moment, is she?
Apparently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, look at the top.
Oh, yeah, she is, isn't she? Yeah, but no, we can't include that.
Daniel, Denise. Yeah. When he was a baby, Daniel lived there.
Yeah. We've had... there was a nice little trio with Elena and Emma. And
I like that.
That worked nicely, but I think it would be wrong to not have Maria there.
This is like the young...
Do we pair her up with Fizz just for funsies?
Yeah, this is the kind of the bright young thing. If you didn't know where someone was going to go, you just put them in here. So you got Marcus, Luke, Kaz, Michelle, Beth, Kirk, Sinead, Emma, Bethany. So many people who you don't think of them living here but they've gone through this flat because it's kind of like a tiny place that anyone can live in.
It's Maria's flat, isn't it? Do you want to shove Fizz in there?
Yeah, let's put Fizz in there as well.
Maria and Fizz at number 2, fine. Then we got number 4 Coronation Street, which is the first of the Maisonettes, and you got.
This is where Tim and Sally live.
This is where Tim and Sally live at the moment, exactly. But then also in the past, you had a nice family unit with Ashley and Maxine. Fred lived there. I think it was maybe after Maxine died, and it was Ashley, Fred, and Claire living there. And then going back to the very early days of the house when it was first built, you had Derek and Mavis living there, who were quite strong contenders. See, I think this is a really difficult one, actually. Yeah. I'm kind of leaning more towards Sally and Tim, though. What about you?
I just want to defend myself there a little bit, because I do know who lives in which house. I just don't know what the numbers are.
Yeah, I know.
And I can't, off the top of my head, give you an address of a Coronation Street character. And I think for my mental health, I think that's good.
That's fine. You don't need to defend yourself.
I remember,
you're not their postman.
I'm just saying, like, when the story I told about when I had my MRI scan, I did go through it in my head, and I remembered where everybody lived.
Kept you busy, didn't it? Well,
so I'm just making sure that people don't think I'm, like, pretending to be stupid to be cool. I do know where everybody lives. I just don't know the address. If you said to me, where does Dev live? I would go...
No, I think you need to 11? Set yourself that as your New Year's resolution today. No, 7. Oh, for God's sake. Yeah, so basically, are we having Derek and Mavis? Are we having Ashley and, Ashley and family? Or are we having Sally and Tim?
God, it's got to be Sally and Tim, isn't it?
It doesn't have to be.
But
if you want Sally as an all-star...
Didn't Kevin live there with Sally and the girls?
Yes, they were there for a little bit together in about 15 or so years ago.
We don't have any of those yet.
We don't.
I think, to me, look, and I'm sorry to Tim Vans.
I would happily put the Websters in there.
I'm sorry to Tim Vans. I'm not going to pretend. I don't hate him as much as I pretend to, but to me, if I'm thinking of the family unit of the Websters, or a family unit with Sally in it, I'm always going to think of Kevin and the girls.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Okay, well that's fine. So we've shoved the Websters, the OG Websters, into there. Well, sorry,
what
Bill and Debbie, you don't count that. That's number 4. Number 6 is currently vacant after Yasmin has departed, and this is the Dud house. This is the revolving door. Starting off with Des and Steph. But you've also had Tracy and Charlie live there. You've had the Ramsdens. You've had the Harrises. You've had the Mortons.
The Windasses.
Windasses lived there for a little bit as well.
The Nazirs, I think, are the main families that have lived there. So, this is difficult. It's
not obvious. There doesn't seem to be one family that screams, "This is their house," apart from maybe the Nazirs now. Because Yasmin at least stayed there the longest.
She stayed there just over 10 years.
I mean, we've already got Tracy living at number 1, so I think that we can say, well, sorry, Tracy and Charlie aren't going to count here.
The Mortons and the Harrises are no-go.
They're disposable.
The Ramsdens, nobody cares about them.
No.
Really. And the Barneses, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be tempted to say... Let's have Des and Raquel in here just so that we can save Raquel from whatever oblivion the unpicked characters are being cast into here.
This is like imagine if this was a version of like Black Mirror where we are consigning all these people into computer hell.
I mean, the Windasses could be a choice, couldn't they? A couple of years they lived there with Eddie, Anna, Gary, Faye.
I didn't want to say it, but I do actually really like the idea of the Windasses.
They just don't scream classic as much as some of the other ones do there. But I don't know whether it's fair to be able to say, put Raquel and Des in there just to get Raquel onto my list.
I don't think putting Raquel and Des in there is fair at all. Because
that was a doomed relationship anyway.
Nobody cares about Des at all. I'm sorry. And
Phil Middlemiss.
The Windasses were there for like 5 years around, in total.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Not all of them all the time.
But it's I think it's the Windasses versus the Nazirs.
Yeah.
So, but which conglomeration of Nazir?
Well, I think if we wanted most bang for our buck, we'd have to get in like early Nazirs. So Sharif, Yasmin, Cal, Alia, Zidane live in there as a big group. I'm
I
not
don't think
feeling
that's
like
unfair.
I'm not feeling like I particularly want to save any of them other than Yasmin. But then, am I feeling this about the Windasses either?
Yeah, I'm not like Zidane. I just felt was maligned because he didn't want his wife having an affair, which I think is a kind of understandable. But as a person, I think he's the most boring arsehole in the world. Sharif is obviously a dog.
If we pick the Nazirs, do we get the chickens as well?
Do we put
I think
Jeff
we
in
do.
there just to kind of like...
We could put Yasmin and Jeff in there. You know,
Just
if we're making an all-star cast,
this is a TV
let's
show.
have a villain in
making
there.
Here.
We haven't got any big villains
got
yet.
to have some drama.
I mean, that was a really watchable era of the show, wasn't it? As horrific as it was for Yasmin.
And it would be interesting too. I know this is not real, but it would be really fascinating to see how Bet and Annie and Elsie would kind of cope with seeing Yasmin be bullied by this man, and what would they say about it?
Yeah, go for it. Let's have Yasmin and Jeff there at number 6.
Yasmin,
Why
Jeff,
not?
and Alia. Did Alia live there, or was it just Jeff and
I
Yasmin?
don't care whether she lived there or not. I don't want her then there cramping their style, do we?
I don't hate Alia anymore.
Number 8, obviously you got the Platts there. It's always been the Platts. The question is, which group of Platts do we want? I'm kind of gunning a little bit for early 2000s Platts when we got Gail, David, Sarah Lou and Richard Hillman. Because to have Richard Hillman living next door to Jeff, that could make, I don't know.
That would be so fun, so brilliant. I love that, because that means we don't have to argue about which of David's wives is going to be.
Exactly.
We're going to have Shona or Kylie or...
Well, there we go. That was an easy pick. Are you happy with Gail Hillman being in the mix?
Yeah, go on. Why not? Gives us something to do.
Okay. Right. Moving along then. So
how long have we been talking? What are we at?
We're only 40 minutes.
Oh my goodness! This is supposed to be an hour long.
Yeah. Who says?
I know, but we've got to do another question.
Okay. Look. So 10A Coronation
So which one's
Street. This is Rita's flat. I mean, Rita's going in, isn't she?
Rita and...
We didn't pick Jenny earlier, did we? This is the one that you said you wanted it to be Jenny living there. I mean, she did. To be fair to her, stay there for couple of years.
She's been there 3 different periods.
Yeah, I think Rita and Jenny is. I don't think there's any.
Daisy in there at the same time?
I don't think so.
Yeah, there was a point where Daisy and Jenny moved in with Rita. There was.
Oh. Yeah, but I suppose there was. That was a couple of years ago.
Can we get Stephen in? Was there a swap between Stephen and Daisy?
I don't think Rita's got enough bedrooms to accommodate all of those people at once.
So it's Jenny, Rita, and Daisy or Stephen. Which one are you going to pick? Daisy. Okay.
Daisy. We got a couple of baddies now, haven't we? So Rita, Jenny, and Daisy living there at 10A Coronation Street.
This is so fun.
And we've got number 12 Coronation Street. There's not even a page for this.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, there is a page. I found it now. This is where Brian currently lives. This is the house that we never see. We've literally, I don't remember the last time that this was on screen.
How long has he been living there? 7 years.
He's been living there, yeah. And we barely appeared on screen since then. So I don't think Brian's going to make it into my all-star cast. I'd definitely be quite up for having Reg Holsworth in, no, just for fun. But then you also had a great little era 25 odd years ago with Steve and Karen living there together.
Oh.
Really, I mean, there's been various people living there over the years. Violet and Jamie lived there for a bit. Carla did for a bit, but I don't think that they don't scream number 12 Coronation Street to me. I'd quite like it to be Reg, maybe Reg and Maureen in there.
Reg and Maureen are quite fun, and
we haven't got Steve and Karen yet, have we?
No.
We haven't got Steve at least anywhere.
I think it's going to be those two versus Reg and Maureen.
Yeah, I think it probably is. Who are you thinking? I mean, I can't remember how long Maureen lived there with Reg. I don't think it was too long. It was more that it was his bachelor pad in the early 90s when he is
It's not my era.
No,
really.
no. I mean,
I'm gonna make you decide this because Steve and Karen.
My heart says Reg, but my head says probably Steve and Karen. That flat.
Well, I think we want a female villain as well, don't we? Because she's definitely a feisty lady.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't, she's not necessarily a villain. She's more of an antagonist, but she would be cat among the pigeons, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so Steve and Karen then. Yeah. Okay, and that almost brings us to the end of the of the posh side of the street. We got number 14, which is that's just the factory, so that's nobody living there. Then you got number 16, which is and that's the garage. I think we've done them all.
15A?
15A. Oh yeah, that's the cabin flat. We've done that, right? Not the cabin flat. The corner shop flat. I think we're done. I think we've done Coronation Street at least. Should we throw in another? We're not going to go around the corner. I'll happily
do it another day.
Maybe do it another day if people enjoyed this, because
somebody wants to write a listener question about what's our all-star cast that's not Coronation Street and their addresses.
Rosamond Street and Victoria Street special edition, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to run through who's on our all-star cast? So we got at the Rovers, Jack and Annie. Number 1, Ken, Deirdre, Amy and Blanche. Number 2, the salon flat. We got Maria and Fizz up there. 3, Emily Bishop and Percy Sugden. Number 4, Sally, Tim, Rosie and Sophie. No, it's not Sally and Tim. No. Sally and Kevin, Rosie and Sophie again there. Sorry, Tim, you're out. Number 5, Les, Janice, Leanne and Toya. Number 6, we've got... I can't even read my own writing here. Oh, Yasmin and Jeff living in there, just for fun. Number 7, you've got the Alahans, Dev, Ardy and Asher. So grown-up Ardy and Asher here. Number 8, you got the Hillmen. We got Richard, we got Gail... We got youngish Sarah and David living there as well. And presumably Bethany gets thrown in there as well. Baby Bethany. She must have been there at that time. Number 9, we got Jack, Vera and Tyrone. 10, you got Rita and Jenny. 11, Dennis, Elsie and Linda. Number 12, we just had number 12. What did we say? We said Steve and Karen, didn't we? And then number 13, Stan, Hilda and Eddie. And then 15A, Irma and Bet. That's a pretty good list. Is our Coronation Street All-Star cast.
What do you think to that?
I'd watch it.
Yeah, I'd watch that. That's really good.
Yeah, I'd watch that show for sure. I would be very interested to hear what listeners thought about that. So
people don't
write in and let us know. If you're listening to this on YouTube, put your comments in about who you'd put in each place. And
I feel like we should have done a video of this, like with World War II, like Churchill's war rooms with
this discussion would be
moving.
1,000,000% better with a video version. But what are you gonna do? We said that we're low on prep time for that this week, but no one wants to make one to accompany our voices.
He's going to spend 8 hours making a video for this.
Yeah, go for it.
We'd love that.
Thank you very much, John, for your question. I hope that you appreciate it.
Did that answer your question? I think it did, didn't it? I think that was a pretty good answer.
Yeah. So from John, we're going to Joanne next, who would like to know, I would say, what sets make you want to rejoice, need a reshuffle, should be rebooted, or need to be removed? Or along those lines. So I think Joanne's going alliterative here. Rejoice, reshuffle, reboot, or remove. I mean...
Oh, no.
Do we just get it out there and rip the plaster off and say get rid of the police station and the hospital, because that's the most obvious thing to say?
Yeah, like I said, I think we can cleanse it with fire.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Yeah, some kind of arson attack on one or both of those places would be just peachy.
I'd rather get rid of the hospital 100 million times. And I'm sorry to add this, but the prison set can get bent as well at this point.
Definitely. It's just the problem is they're there, aren't they? They're fixtures. You got all the medical set, all the hospital stuff is just... Well, either there at the opening or in where the medical centre is. That's where all the sets are. Fairly untouchable. You got the prison set is probably difficult to take down, possibly, because that's rather than being in a studio, it's got a relatively permanent home above where Roy's flat is.
But it's so...
And then the police station, they've got a whole building for it, so it'd be really, really tough. And a lot of some of the police station, you obviously got the welcoming area, whatever it's called, the reception, that's there in situ, so it's going to be a lot harder to get rid of. And they've only just built the internal police station sets just last year. So as much as we'd like to see it happen, just to reduce the amount of stories that are set now, I can't sadly see it happening.
It tells you a lot about their priorities that they've decided to build these institutional buildings instead of, say, like a school. Because you've got loads of kids, you've got a teacher, You've got other people that work as teachers.
Well, they did have a school set for a while, didn't they? During the Dylan bullying story last year. But
why did they get rid of it and make a bloody hospital and a prison and a police station?
I'd be really interested to know whereabouts the set for the school was built. Because if it was in a studio, it's very easy to put up and take down.
They did use an internal real school at certain points. I know they did.
They have done in the past used a real school, but probably not for quite a while.
Not that I want to see bloody school scenes either, honestly. But if you're going to give me a choice of do I want someone to get detention or do I want them to get terminal illness, I'd rather they get detention. If you just watch the school scenes in the 90s, I'll say, it had just got such a different feel to them because it was in an actual school. Exactly. Yeah.
And you got all the kids and the extras milling around. It just had a different feel to it. Every time...
It just felt real.
Every time that they show a school set now, it feels like a set.
Well, it's inside the prison.
That's the problem.
It's in the prison now.
What is?
Most of the school stuff.
Oh, what? With all the... Yeah. With Dylan in his...
He signs up with being like, don't stab each other.
Yeah.
Don't do drugs.
That set does not make me want to rejoice. Partly the problem with the prison set, and I guess this is maybe bleeding into what I want to talk about on the podcast, the main podcast this week, is we just get the same flipping stories there all the time. Somebody getting bullied by someone else. Whether it's their cellmate, or whether it's the parent or family of someone over there. It's just... It drives me insane. I'm so sick of it.
I'm sorry, but it's the same as the hospital. There's only one. I know Casualty does it every week and they have something different, but it's not different, is it? We watched Casualty this weekend.
We did watch this week's Casualty with Conor McIntyre.
Big props to everybody. I love you if you love it. I think all the people on it are great. Amazing writing. Whatever. But at the end of the day, every episode is kind of the same. And I'm sorry to say this, but it's
we
kind of the
seen
same.
A lot of Casualty, but the episodes that we have seen do seem quite familiar.
There's always one main patient and another patient that's not as important, but you find out everything about their lives in like an hour. And then you also find out something new about one of the nurses or the doctors, and then somebody flirts with somebody else. And also they have struggles about being in the NHS.
I'd like to defend some of the Casualty scenes, if I may.
No.
Only that what goes on in Casualty is exciting, high octane. Yeah. These characters have just been brought in. They've got a shard of glass sticking out their neck.
I couldn't watch it.
And that, when it's in Coronation Street, is often quite exciting. You know, when we had Mason be brought into the hospital earlier this year after the stabbing, those particular scenes there now were quite exciting. It's everything that happens afterwards when it's just somebody sitting up in bed being visited. That's the dull bit for me. Or having Kevin having his chemo dripped into him. Look, I don't want to see.
People are going to get mad at me for saying that about Casualty. I don't mean it really. I just don't like that kind of story. But yeah, if you're going to have if you're going to have a medical storyline, just know Casualty's done it better a million times already. They just have. And the other good thing about Casualty compared to Coronation Street is that you don't bloody have to follow somebody's whole entire life story just to find out they die at the end. Like, here you go, here's a new character, they're sick, what's wrong with them? You find out in an hour and then they go. And they die or they don't.
I think that we need to be flip-flopping between the positive and the moans here at the moment. So are there any sets where you think, you know, I love that set, or I'm really pleased to see it come on, or I'd like to see it more, without it turning into a moan like, wow, they need to show more of the cabin? Because I think that's kind of obvious that they need to show more of the cabin.
What cabin?
Exactly. I mean, it's utterly bonkers how... I know, I've just gone down the moany road again, haven't I?
Here you go.
Utterly bonkers how little that gets shown.
I'm quite excited to see what happens with the Platts. They're going to obviously rebuild that house. Are they going to reconfigure it? Because
like number 3 Bailey style.
Or like what they've done with the Rover's staircase, where it just moves inexplicably every so often.
It's only moved once after the fire.
Okay. Well, what was the point of that? I'm just saying, is it going to look so completely different you don't even know it's the Platt house anymore?
I think that would be a bold move, because just that general layout is really fairly iconic, isn't it?
To me, I'm just going to say, I think that the Platt's house is as iconic a front room as The Simpsons.
I think you're right. I think that probably is. I don't know whether Ken's house could, fight for it in terms of... Really. Because that has looked fairly similar for a lot longer than the Platt's house has even been in existence.
I guess so.
But it's a bit dull, isn't it? But the Platt's house is where some real high drama has come. And I think that yes, of course, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do to it next. But even before pre-fire, I think that whenever the Platt's living room appears in the lounge, I'm gonna be excited by it.
Yeah.
I because I've got so many memories of fun stories happening there. It's not a particularly interesting set to look at. That's the problem. Maybe with some of the sets, they go overboard a little bit and try and make it a little bit too busy. I mean, I do quite like the Bailey's house but I'm not going to say I get excited by it.
So there are a few real high-profile, clearly nicely designed, interior decorated flats. So I'd say the Baileys, or like houses or whatever. The Baileys, Carla's.
Oh yeah, Heron decor.
Sarah's is really nice, and Yasmin's.
Yeah, Yasmin. And number 6 is pretty lovely.
And they're all kind of similar in a way, but they're all really nicely decorated. Like these are houses of people who care about what things look like, and they've got money to spend. You look at something like, Gemma and Chesney's house, they haven't got any money, and also Fizz and Tyrone's house, it's just whatever's there is what is there. We haven't changed the wallpaper for years. None of the pictures go with the wallpaper. The furniture doesn't go. There's no colour scheme or anything. And although those are the most chaotic and unpleasant, they're kind of ugly. But I like them because they look real to me. They look more real than Sarah's flat does. Although I know people live like that, I don't really know anyone who really does live like that and has a really lovely house that's so tastefully decorated as that. But of the really nicely done ones, which one's your favourite? I think Sarah's is my favourite. I mean, and Gary and Maria's with the old...
with the rose gold.
Yeah, rose gold
That doesn't make me rejoice particularly. I'll tell you one that's also, I would say, pretty nicely decorated is the back room of the Rovers. I've always liked the blue-grey kind of colour scheme that Jenny and Johnny together put.
Do you think Johnny had any?
Did he have any say in it? No,
Now, which Rover's kitchen is your favourite?
The TARDIS kitchen or
the one that actually exists?
I've got no strong feelings either way about the Rover's kitchen. I'm gonna reveal that to you now.
But what's your favourite? So your favourite, if you wanted to, if you were gonna, you had to have an interior decorator come in and make our house look like one set on Coronation Street, which set are you going to pick?
We're veering away from what the question was.
No, well, it's not really.
I would probably say the Rover's back room actually is my favourite decor style. I'm
sticking with Sarah. I just love that. The pillars, the columns, the navy. I think it's navy. It's really nice, bold, dark colours in there.
Yeah.
And lots of nice metal and...
I'll tell you one that is definitely going to be a controversial pick that I actually really like. And it's number 9. It's Fizz and Tyrone's house. Some people absolutely hate it and say it's a mishmash and is a shrine to Jack and Vera, like I said earlier.
It's just like Gemma and Chesney.
It is a bit of a dump. But Gemma and Chesney's feels a lot even busier, I think. I'll tell you one thing, actually, though. Something that makes me rejoice about number 5, Gemma and Chesney's, when we see where the fireplace used to be. That little alcove in there that used to be such a prominent feature back in Ivy and Bert's days.
Yeah.
It's not very much we get to see that fourth wall, but it always makes me go, ooh.
That side was the side you saw the most when it was there.
Yeah. It is funny how over the years, some houses...
rotate.
They rotate. So the fourth wall changes about. And like I think... I'm trying to think of some other houses that have done that.
Emily's.
Emily's is obviously a lot different now because that's changed hugely.
Can I...
Go on.
Are you going to think of it or...
I think I will say that at number 11, I think in Elsie and Dennis, we saw a lot more of the back wall. The back wall now than you do these days with Eileen living there. You don't really see the TV wall very much.
You see Abby's kitchen a lot more, and that's kind of like what you used to see for Elsie. She used to spend all her time in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I think a set that needs a reshuffle is the Baileys, and I think...
Oh, really?
Only because are they just gonna is this Aggie's permanently gone and we're never gonna see her again? She's not gonna get a recast or anything.
I don't need Aggie to be recast.
That man, Ed, you can't tell me that he was like, I want 3 hummingbirds on and a hair that's a lump. He didn't pick any of that stuff in there, did he? I want curtains that look like tripe. No, this was all Aggie stuff. I want it to slowly start turning into this bachelor pad and things to start looking broken, and he starts bringing in stuff that doesn't match.
Don't forget that when the Baileys moved in, one of the stories that was going on in the first year or so was that he wouldn't get the stairs finished, was he? Yeah, because he's a builder and he do work for everyone else, and she was always nagging at him to get those. I don't think he could be bothered to make changes to that house. No,
but no, I mean that things will get broken or change or like.
I do quite like the Bailey's hat. I know I said earlier it's a little bit on the busy side, but maybe I like the colour. I like the colour and the themes.
And the honeycomb.
Yeah, I know one that I'm going to say number one needs a reboot. I know they kind of went halfway, didn't they? When Tracy and Steve moved in, you had the picture of the dog on the wall and other various McDonald paraphernalia, but it clashes because you still got Ken's dresser and it's very, very Ken Barlow, isn't it? It looks largely similar to how it did 40 years ago.
Was that it had a massive dresser?
Yeah,
it's not the same dresser, obviously.
Yeah, and I know there's something to be said for some houses are just iconic and classic, don't touch them. But now they've started with the McDonald's, it just feels odd not to go the full hog. But maybe we just have to wait until Ken pops his clogs before they do it.
I think that house is so nostalgic because when I was little, my nan, she would always sit in the kitchen, and so I just remember sitting the opposite side of the kitchen table, and that was her front room, and my granddad sat in the actual front room where all the sofas were and with the television. And my nan would listen to the radio, and my granddad would watch the TV. But just having a room that you hang out in that is the dining room is kind of a really nostalgic old school thing for me. So I like seeing all the family like really uncomfortably sitting around on dining room tables thinking, why the hell does Ken not just buy normal sofas like a normal human being?
Well, they even had Rob when he came in a couple of weeks ago looking at the sofa and saying, you guys still got that old thing.
It's horrible. It looks so uncomfortable.
It looks mega uncomfortable, yeah. But I suppose it's true and real to life to have old people with their furniture stuck back when they were hip and with it.
Well, I don't think I'm ever going to change what I think looks nice. And I can totally see now why old people get stuck in their ways, because I don't see why it should change. Just because young people think something looks different, like it's cooler. I don't know.
Houses that haven't had a reboot, it doesn't feel like they have for a long time. Number 11... which is Eileen's house. That feels like it's been static for a while.
I think you'll find they bought a tiny sofa.
Yeah, of course. And also, I was going to say another one now, but you throw the Alahans, number 7.
Yeah.
Where both of those may have been redecorated, but to me it feels like that they've been pretty static for the best part of 20-25 years now.
I think a lot of people think that Yasmin's house is gonna be the home of the Connor Swains.
That's where the theories are pointing, aren't they? Yeah.
So I imagine that will be done up. The thing is, what's their budget at the moment, Coronation Street? What's their set budget? Because they're going to do the Platts again. They're going to do that up. There's no way, it wouldn't make any logical sense for it to look exactly the same. That'd be stupid.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that Yasmin's house is going to get redecorated because somebody's going to move in there because nobody lives there now. It's just obvious. So, are they going to run out of budget to do anything else with any other place? Probably.
I going back to what I was saying about the Grimshaws and the Alahans. I think part of when I go there, it doesn't make me want to rejoice per se, as Joanne has asked in the question, but I do kind of just like get a warm, nostalgic, fuzzy kind of feeling when we see inside that house.
Which one?
Eileen's and also the Alahans' house.
Yeah.
It just kind of feels. Yeah, it's not trying too hard, and it feels that they both feel a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, I think those feel like... I think the Alahans house feels more like a normal middle-class home where it's like things that kind of match.
I like the Sunita
and
shine.
Everything's kind of decorated nicely, but it's like, it's not showy or like a trendy. It's like, this could be the same in 10 years' time and it would still not look weird.
Yeah.
Like all of the really high income families, like like Sarah and Carla and stuff, you can imagine them changing in 5 years' time to whatever's new and trendy. Whereas I don't think that the other families really care.
Yeah, I think you're right. Moving away from the houses, do any of the kind of businesses, or maybe like just we say the eateries like Bistro, Rovers, Speed Dial, do any of those need changing or getting rid of for you?
It's such a hard one, isn't it? Because it actually has changed quite a lot over the years, but it's unnoticeable. Like if I was to show the average person who's not necessarily a podcast listener but just watches Corrie casually, and I was to show them 5 different versions of the Rovers, front, whatever,
the bar, the public,
I bet you they wouldn't be able to tell me which was the current one, which one was 20, when was Liz?
Yeah,
because it's all just chintzy fabric and dark wood and brass and very traditional looking, but it has changed so much.
But I don't think that that's anything that you could make drastic changes to. They
want
teased
them to.
it when Jenny and Johnny moved in, didn't they? And they had all the signs up saying closed for refurbishment, but it looked pretty much the same.
But I would really
afterwards.
can I say, I would love them to put the cat among the pigeons and do like a 6-month, complete like TGI Fridays nonsense. Just put flair everywhere, like stuffed.
I mean, they could have done it when Waterford's took over the other year, couldn't they?
They did have a story where Bet was being threatened that they were going to make it an American bar. Do you remember? And she went to that place and looked around and she was like, this is horrific.
Yeah.
But
Natalie
honestly,
was going to sell it out to the boozy chain as well, who would have done something similar back 25 years ago.
I think it would be a great distraction technique. If Coronation Street, I mean, I'm sure they do feel this way, might be getting a bit fed up with constant criticism. Why not distract everybody by like doing something that really is dreadful, and then have everybody just complain about that for about 6 months, and then put it back to how it used to be, just for a laugh.
Might work.
Well, don't you think it would be kind of funny and interesting to go? Do you remember that time when inexplicably the Rovers just turned into TGI Fridays for 6 months?
Yeah. No,
I think it would be quite funny.
Could work. I mean, the Rovers is now going to be on the market, so maybe they can have somebody come in, just a short-term stay, like a Maureen Lipman. What was that character called? Lillian Spencer. I know she was only here for a couple of weeks, but bring in somebody like that for 6 months or so for a temporary reboot.
I think it would be. I just don't think that there's anything they can do to the Rovers that. I think maybe I'm just blind to a certain category of decoration, and it just all looks the same to me. Like
I think it would be a huge mistake to do a long-term reboot of the Rovers.
It's not a Wetherspoons exactly, but like if you told me that was a Wetherspoons, I'd be like, okay. You know what I mean? It's just chintzy, traditional. There is a style of decoration that is just pub.
Yeah, they couldn't make a change to that.
No, but they could. That's what I'm saying. They could make a change in the category of pub, and they could do it every week, and I probably wouldn't even notice that they had changed the fabric and the carpet at all.
Do you think that the Bistro or Speed Dial need a reboot? I mean, they've both had refreshers over the years, haven't they?
Yeah.
Speed Dial was just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
No.
Now this is funny because this is now Alia and Leanne's place, so technically, it could get a refresh. And be something different.
I'd rather just get rid. Although if we got rid of one of them, it'd mean that at least at the moment, you got we're going out for a fancy meal. It's spread fairly evenly between Speed Dial and the Bistro. If you were to get rid of one, they'd just all go to the other one, and then you get even more fed up with the other set, wouldn't you? I wouldn't be adverse to getting rid of the Bistro and Speed Dial, but what I really want is just for them to be able to go out into the real world and do more location shoots in actual restaurants like they used to, and I know that's not quite possible.
No, I know that the Bistro is quite true to life in that it's just a generic, boring restaurant that probably has the same thing as every other restaurant, like fish pie, burger, I don't know, a pizza menu. They're just all the same boring nonsense, gammon and chips.
Yeah.
Why not make it a Chinese restaurant and have actually Chinese characters? We've only ever had one. The whole time Coronation Street has been on the air, I think there's only ever been one character who was Chinese. Why not have a Chinese family move in, turn the Bistro into a Chinese restaurant? Because I don't know about where you guys live, if you live in the UK, but in Southampton, it's radically changed over the past few years because of the influx of Chinese students with lots and lots of money. So now there's bubble tea places, there's a million different Chinese restaurants and takeaways and supermarkets. I'm absolutely loving it. This is like, I'm in heaven, because there's only ever been one Chinese supermarket for years in this city, and now there's about 3 that I could just go to all the time, and it's absolute bliss for me. But is this not happening in other parts of the country? It can't be only Southampton this is happening to. There must be Chinese students all over this country. Is there a big... I mean, when we went to Coventry, like for when I turned 40, there was a whole Chinese area that never existed before.
I'm sure I remember reading something about one of the soaps a couple of years ago were introducing a Chinese family, but I can't remember which one it was.
The thing is about it is because it's like traditionally we're getting to a stage, and because it's not something I know a lot about, obviously, but we're getting to a stage now where second generation children of immigrants who are running Chinese takeaways and restaurants are like, this is my life. You've done so well for me. You've come to this country. You've set up this business, and it has given success, unbelievable success to your descendants. And now I, as your child, have gone to study medicine or become a lawyer or whatever. All these high flying amazing jobs. I don't want to work in a Chinese restaurant. So we're losing lots of there's not going to be all these lovely Chinese and Indian restaurants, because the children are so successful, they don't want to go and run them. And then people that work there have decided that they want to retire and not carry on the business. So maybe it wouldn't make sense. But I am going to say that there are so many more authentic Chinese places now, because a lot of those old places are kind of westernized, aren't they?
Yeah.
But there's so many more authentic, like hot pot places, like what a Chinese hot pot place on Coronation Street. I think some people would lose their minds, wouldn't they? But why? What is so intrinsically Mancunian about having an Indian restaurant, a Pakistani street food restaurant, versus a Chinese one? Because there's loads of Chinese places everywhere across this country.
I wouldn't mind a dramatic refresh of the bistro, because I mean that's been there in various forms for 15 years or so now. It was the joinery first, wasn't it? And that was before the tram crash. That was still there, and it felt like back in the day the sets would change more often. You just have to look at the other side of the street.
Yeah, no, I think they're precious about it now.
When there was the Mission Hall, and then it was Maisonettes, and then there were various factories. There was the Mark Britton warehouse. It felt that things were changing at a lot quicker pace, and maybe it kept things a bit more interesting. And it's just a little bit more stagnant now. And yes, we've had the Underworld set has been changed a couple of years ago, but it's still been Underworld for the best part of 30 years or so now, just coming up to 30 years. A change is as good as a rest, I say, and I wouldn't mind whatsoever if the Underworld was got rid of, or if the bistro, like you said, changed into a Chinese restaurant or something.
How about this? How about get rid of Audrey's and put in a bubble tea place, because that could be a drinks place there. It doesn't have to be a salon.
Yeah, and we've got Sweet Enough in the precinct, haven't we? But you obviously can't go into that. How are you feeling about the precinct on the subject of sets now we're a couple of years into it? Is it being overused already?
No, I don't think it's been overused.
It doesn't make me rejoice as much as it did at the beginning.
I just think that we need to stop pretending that it's... I think it needs to be established where exactly it is and how long it takes you to get there, because at the moment, obviously behooves them to not be specific, but it doesn't make any sense where it is to me. I've got no conception of where I'm supposed to think this is.
The only thing I would say about the precinct, I'm not totally sick of it, but it feels like nowadays, if you're not in the Coronation Street, Rosamond Street, Victoria Street area, or obviously the police station or the hospital, you're going to be in the precinct, and there's characters that just happen to be going there all the time, and anything that's going on that's slightly dodgy is in the precinct.
Yeah, that's true.
But then again, it's a bit like I've said with, say, the prison set. It's there now. It's pretty fixed. You got to use it, and they must have spent who knows how many thousands of pounds installing this precinct set. So now they feel like they kind of have to use it. And once again, it's removed the need to go out into Salford or Manchester to do any actual outdoor filming, which I would prefer a million times over than seeing the same old place again.
I know, I really do think that
what can you do about that? Nothing.
I just think because they're so proud of their heritage, and it's really important that it's northern, and I totally agree with that. Why don't we see more of Manchester or Salford? Why don't we go out a bit more? Why don't we see I know it costs money, but you wouldn't know anything about what Manchester's like from watching Coronation Street. I know it's not like educate the Southerners on what it's like up north. I know it's not for that reason, but I would be, if I lived in Manchester, I'd be so proud of all the amazing history and culture. There's so much amazing stuff there that you could just film outside of.
Yeah.
You don't even see people getting on a tram. The only time you ever saw someone on a tram was when Peter buggered off to go on a boat.
Right, tell you what, I've got a little bit of a what's it called? A quick fire round here. So a cassette that does give me the warm fuzzies when I see it is Roy's Flat. I'll always love Roy's Flat because there's and that's mega busy, isn't it? But I think I like that.
Roy's Rolls as well.
Really? I'm fairly neutral on Roy's
I'd say
Rolls.
that Roy's Rolls was like gave me that nostalgic feeling.
I think it's because we see it all the time, whereas Roy's we see infrequently enough. But I love it. I really, really love Roy's Flat, and he's not going to change it, is he? So that's going to stay exactly as it is until they cart him off in a coffin. I'd like to see. I'd like to see some of the businesses on the precinct maybe getting a bit of a interior, particularly the charity shop. Although with Evelyn moving away from the street now, it seems like it's possibly not worth doing that. But having an interior for Sweetie Nuff could be good. Although that's just going to mean more teen scenes, probably, isn't it? Which isn't, I'm not the biggest fan.
They could just move Sweetie Nuff to.
Yeah, it could branch out, couldn't it?
To Coronation Street.
Or, I'm going to say, I would love to see I really want the snooker hall to be used, and it's empty and derelict now, isn't it? But having a downstairs other kind of evening meeting place would be quite exciting for me. But I suppose the problem with anywhere is you're going to get sick of it. If it's a programme that's on 3 days a week, going to be 5 days a week next year, sets are on rotation, there's only so many you can have set up to be filmed on at once, you're always going to be sick of them. And those sets that you never see, Brian's flat, the cabin, the medical centre, whenever they appear on screen next, you're going to go, oh, it's there again. So
we did say that we wanted the community centre to have a bit of a refresh, didn't we?
I'm not so bothered about the community centre.
But we were talking about third spaces, weren't we, this week, Michael? And I was telling you, there's the third spaces on Coronation Street are all just other businesses.
Yeah, so having more of a hangout
having
place,
somewhere for people to go, would be nice.
Okay. Any final love it, hate it, get rid of it, give it a reshuffle that you can think of?
No, I think we've spoken quite a lot about different ideas.
Yeah.
We didn't do it methodically.
No, not particularly.
But I'm interested to know what other people think. I do think that people would go crazy if they put a Chinese restaurant in. But I do not think that it's really common for a high street or a parade of shops to have at least.
I know this is your passion now.
Sorry.
I think that it's time for either the bistro or Speed Dial to have a bit of a something done.
I want the bistro to just be something. Like, what is it? It's one of these really bland places where you look up what kind of food do you serve here, and it just says European, and you're like, what does that? It doesn't mean anything. It just means you do pies and burgers.
I'm also gonna say, sorry Audrey, can we retire you? Let's rebrand Audrey's as Trim Up North, because I preferred that, and have David there properly working. And also maybe it is time to get rid of the cabin if they're not going to show it because they don't want to have Brian on screen, or they can't have Rita because they can only show her as much. That's literally sitting there, centre of the street, taking up a heck of a lot of space. Maybe it's time to turn that into something else completely.
Well, if you want to reflect the real life, then it needs to be a vape shop.
Oh my gosh, just imagine that. There's that hope when she give her a few years.
Yeah.
And maybe she can be running that. I don't think the sponsors would be too happy with that.
The cabin becomes a vape shop and Audrey's becomes a Turkish barber's.
Maybe it could be. Maybe. Right, I've got nothing more to add to this, so if you haven't, then we can draw this lovely discussion to a conclusion. But listeners, again, tell us what you think. Which sets make you rejoice? Which ones would you think need a reshuffle or a reboot? Which ones should be removed? Don't all shout out and say police station and hospital, because we know.
I don't think we
know.
Although, I think there's definitely a certain group of people that aren't going to say they want to get rid of the police station.
If you would like to write in and say, I rejoice every time the police station or hospital set appear on screen, you go for that. You let us know. Tell us that they're your favourite sets.
I'm sorry I was mean about Casualty. Episode. I just didn't like watching it because it's got blood in it.
That's fine. You're perfectly entitled.
Made me feel sick.
That's it for our listener questions. We got there in the end. I was going through a period where I was thinking we're not going to have another bonus podcast this week, but we squeezed one out for you, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed it.
Did you like it?
And we'll be back very, very soon with our thoughts on this week's Coronation Street in our main podcast. But until then, we're going to say ta-ra. So goodbye from me, goodbye from Gemma. And Abby's disappeared off somewhere, but I'm sure she'd say goodbye if she could.